What's going on, everybody? This is Whiskey, Web, and Whatnot with myself, Robbie the Wagner, and my co-host, as always, Charles William Carpenter III. Beep, boop, boop, boop. So yeah, we tried to have Kelly Vaughn, Chris Coyier, Scott Tolinski, Wes Bos, and Tracy... I'm blanking on Tracy's last name. Lee, yeah. This
is bad.
It's fine. We do what we want.
Yeah.
I'm frazzled today, I will admit.
Yep, some folks, we try to have some folks on and record all at the same time. And when you need to have many internets working well, often that's not the case. I guess we just need to realize that even in 2023, internet speeds are a problem and infrastructure is an issue. But we try to have some fun folks on and talk whiskey and speak about many other internet things. Unfortunately, we were only able to cobble together about 30 minutes of it, and we lost Kelly and all of that. So, Sorry, Kel, chicken cock. Enjoy what you're about to hear.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Whiskey, Web, and Whatnot special 100th episode edition with lots of fancy guests and myself, Robbie the Wagner, and my co-host, as always, Charles William Carpenter III. So, yeah.
There's a story. What? I don't know. I'm seeing all these
because there's so many people.
Me think of the Brady Bunch. Yes.
Yeah, I don't really know how to introduce this many people. Let's just go through and... For most people have probably heard of all of you, but if you want to give a quick intro into who you are, we'll start with Chris.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me, guys. I just saw you in person just the other week, and Kelly and Scott and Tracy. Oh my God, everybody but Wes. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah,
you missed Render. It was the freaking place to be, man. I own and operate a website called CodePen. That's my fame and fortune at the moment, and I'm glad to be here. Congratulations on 100 too, by the way, fella.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of free time is what it is, Chris. Thank you. Alrighty, actually brings us to Scott.
Hey, what's up? My name is Scott Tolinski. I am the co-host of the Syntax podcast and formerly of Level Up Tutorials.
Okay, and Tracy.
So every time you decide who goes next, you have to count the alphabet in your head.
That's
I
the
see
delay.
you. I see the eyes. My name's Tracy. You can follow me on Twitter at Lady Elite. I am the co-founder of a company called Labs. We do a lot of stuff in the open source world, specifically JavaScript. So I'm also co-host of a podcast called Modern Web and Build It Better. And yeah, if you ever want to hang out, I'm still on Twitter, y'all.
There's no shame in that. Last but not least.
Hey,
Wes.
my name... All right, I'll take it over. My name's Wes Bos. I'm a full stack dev from Canada, and I, along with Scott, we run the Syntax podcast, which recently has joined Sentry. Pretty excited about that, and I also make web development courses online.
Cool.
Superb.
I'm assuming that Chuck is waiting for me to try to say something at points, but my dogs have been going nuts in the background, so I've been muted, so sorry for that. But
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like there's a co-host spot available. Anyone interested in applying? The pay is terrible. Other than whiskey, free whiskey, all you want. Speaking of whiskey, so we're not going to dwell too long on the whiskey, although this is a Whiskey, Web, and Whatnot podcast, so we have to talk about it a little bit and encourage folks to make bad decisions and drink while they work and talk. So coming back around to the Sagamore barrel pick that we did forever ago, feels like years ago at this point, but still an oldie but a goodie. So the stats on that one are 110 proof, aged 7 years, and it's a blend of 2 straight rye mash bills. And I guess we never got into the details of what those separate mash bills were, but...
Did you just get to decide, though? Were you
Well, at least Robbie did. They can't mail it in 2 different places, apparently. Only one place. It's really hard to enter 2 addresses and 2 separate packages. So he got to go through, taste from 3 or 4 different barrels, and then just made a educated guess at what I would like from there.
So yeah, for the whiskey, they sent me 3 barrel ones, and I didn't mix them. It was just getting straight from each of those barrels, so deciding which one tasted the best. And one had a ton of charred stuff floating in it, and I was like, I'm gonna say not that one because that doesn't look fun to drink. The other one tasted kind of scotchy, and this one was not scotchy, so that's how I picked it.
It's very sweet smelling.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's true to Sagamore's normal rye, I would say. It's a little different, but kind of in line with their normal offering.
That's true, Tracy. You haven't been able to taste it as of yet. I wonder
Yes.
what notes do you get in the smell, though?
I got, let's see. I don't know. What would you consider it? I just smell sugar. Sugar. I don't feel like there's a lot of alcohol. Like there's not a lot of heat coming out of the scent, at least, right?
Isn't it
like,
110 proof? It should be some alcohol.
Yeah,
it is.
It
is.
So
it's
coming off 110.
it is hot.
Yeah, it's just has a high proof in the very least, but not like an overwhelming amount of burn. I feel like it's a nice sweet spot. I need at least 100 proof for me because I've burned off so many taste buds at this point in life. When you start getting 120, 130, it gets to be a little much.
I can see that now. I mean, I'm comparing it to Weller, the Weller Special Reserve, the green label, and it's 90 proof, and I can definitely see how the Sagamore is definitely like a little hotter on the nose, but it's so subtle, right? Like it's not like, oh my gosh, I just have an alcohol swab up my nose. I don't know how to describe it.
Those aren't usually the tastiest ones. So we're not going to go through the whole like tentacle thing unless anybody really is missing out on that. Just in general, just talking about like those of us, of course, who get to enjoy it right now. I am forgetful and didn't have a bottle at the office, so I'm having something else. I'm going to say it's not as good as Sagamore, though. It's some Benchmark bottled in bond, so the 100 proof version of Benchmark. And what I like about Benchmark is it's like under $20, but actually still pretty tasty. I'm not ashamed to grab that. I don't know if I'd make it my first choice, but not a bad one for what it is, and definitely a good like cocktail starter. I give it a 4 tentacles. Anyway,
cool.
we can move on and talk a little tech. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah. Do we want to do these hot takes or just move into the other general questions?
Hot takes. But what is a hot take these days, though? Like, do you guys have hot takes prepared, or like?
Yeah, I mean, it's general stuff like who likes Tailwind or not. I'm probably in the minority of this group in liking it.
We did a Modern Web podcast. I don't know if Robbie and Chuck y'all were there, but I thought it was going to be a hot, spicy one, and it was Tailwind or no, and everybody said yes to Tailwind.
I'll say no. Everybody said yes.
Yeah.
I'll say no.
Everyone said yes.
I say I don't care enough, honestly. I have no, like,
that's even less spicy. You're horrible at this. This is a podcast, Chuck. You gotta.
Yeah.
No, I'll go on Twitter later and say Uno CSS or whatever that other one is. It's like just like it, but different.
Yeah, the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's got like 3 different things, and it comes out of the Nuxt community, I think, which makes it better automatically, right?
Well, those of you that use it a lot, I am curious of what do you. Okay, there's this new API called the View Transitions API. It's super cool. I'm sure anybody that follows CSS at all is like, oh, that's hot stuff, right? And one of the jobs you have with that API is unique identifiers. You have to attach a unique name to different div elements. You could just make up the name, but it's got to be unique, you know? I would think a utility class is especially horrible at that, because now you have this one-off pair that should not and cannot be replicated lest you break the entire API, because no two can be the same. Otherwise, you've ruined it. I'm not trying to say, oh, that's an example of Tailwind sucking, because it's true that, and because I have no production Tailwind things, I'm curious. It doesn't matter. I can write some additional CSS also, right? I still have a style sheet that I type random CSS stuff into that gets compiled all together, right? It's not stopping me from using this API, right? It just also has utility classes that I can use.
Like the just-in-time compiler, what most of you might think about Tailwind, which is the set of classes you can pick from them. CSS is getting so complex now that it has to be compiled. So basically you write this syntax of classes and then it will compile to the equivalent CSS, because like you said, like if you want to be able to put in a custom has selector or a view transition, whatever, you are kind of
or a scope selector or a container query. It just seems like there's more and more CSS that's harder to turn into utilities.
Yeah,
it's true. It's all kind of possible, but it's certainly, at least in my opinion, some of that more advanced stuff is a little easier to write there.
As somebody who had like a hot take about Tailwind on Twitter and felt the full wrath of the Tailwind community, I can tell you exactly what they appreciate most about Tailwind. It's that the consistency, which you can obviously get from like variables, right? So it's the consistency. A lot of people like it just for component-based scoping. one of the things I heard a lot was, well, you must love separation of concern sets. It's like, no, I just write single file components and scope my CSS to that component. So people like conflate Tailwind a lot with writing like component based CSS, but also with like design systems that are built in there for you. And then a lot of people just like that it makes a 1,000 decisions for you, so you don't have to think about it. So I think there's like a number of things, but I heard those things over and over again where I don't know if like people just haven't used other systems, or maybe the Tailwind was the first thing they used beyond vanilla. A lot of it comes down to scoping and control and then consistency.
They don't like it when you say that you're bumper bowling with CSS, even though
they don't like it when you say very many things about it.
Isn't it very much though? It's just like, I feel like it's just like, what is the current trend, right? Like, inline CSS is the best thing ever. Before though, like, 2 months ago, it's like, oh no, it wasn't. And I'm talking about like a few years ago, right? But then everybody got on the like inline CSS train, and here we are with another trend. And
I don't think it's a trend. If it was a trend, it would have gone away by now. I know so many people I respect that are like, no, this is great. I can move from project to project. It's the same across every project. I have 13 different ways to declare padding, and that's it. It keeps it replicatable, and I can jump into anything, and I totally get all that. And it's so frustrating to hear people on either side of the argument not understand why somebody uses it, and or people who don't hate it say, oh, it's messy. Both sides are being silly.
And also there's the aspect that people have, a lot of people, not everybody, and you don't have to, but a lot of people have literally bought in. So now what? Was I wrong? Did I waste my money? Like,
oh, interesting. Because there's a paid component of it that affects your brain space. You're a little bit like, oh, I already shelled out $150 on these components.
Exactly.
At least say that I like them.
So like you can put it in any app and any framework, and like you could do that with CSS too, but then you got to set up like your Sass or whatever and all your build stuff, and versus just kind of copying all the classes over. I don't know. I like the portability.
It's artisanal. I'm kidding. But it is kind of funny to see how, like, again, going back to, I started getting to JavaScript around 2015. There was a lot of debates, Angular versus React, for example, of, no, we shouldn't have everything do everything for us. And React is better because you could just write JavaScript and it's awesome. And then, I feel like generally just all of JavaScript has all agreed that, like, frameworks, meta frameworks, we're talking about Tailwind, like, having things that just make your life a lot easier is what we're bought into these days.
We were looking at an online store for syntax. So we were like going through like possible pick and pack vendors. And there was this one really good logistics company that was like perfect. They did everything we want, but we had to use their storefront. And I'm not lying. They had 2 versions of jQuery on their front. And it was just like, oh gosh, like it was like 9 years old tech, and I couldn't believe it. jQuery wasn't bad. It's just that we don't need it anymore. Like it's not like we realize that there's a better way. I guess like frameworks are a better way, but like it's jQuery versus vanilla, not jQuery versus React.
jQuery
totally.
was about gluing together the issues with the browser wars, right?
Yeah.
It was about getting yourself a path forward past all this, like, this is the IE6 thing or whatever.
It was find something, do something, and there's problems both with finding and doing.
I would argue with probably no one that we have this problem a little bit for those who got into development in the last like few years or so, and then probably went through like an accelerator or something else, because people aren't learning JavaScript, they're learning React. So they can go and get a React job because that's the success metric out of those things. And then when folks need to like understand the actual APIs there to the browser and JavaScript, they're like, oh, I'm really screwed and I'm kind of starting over, right? Walking that back is a difficult paradigm.
I went straight into Ember. I remember I was coding and going into a boot camp, and my boyfriend at the time was like looking at me, and I was like creating all these cute little images with marquee tags, my first week. And he's like, oh, should I give it to you or not? And then he like showed me Ember, and I was like, this is magical. And I just like built tons of websites that weekend, and hello material. So I don't know. I mean, I think it really helps me, but fundamentals, yeah, I still remember even going through that. I made Ben Lesh. I went to Netflix and I was like, okay, Ben, everyone's excited about this RxJS thing. And I was like, teach me RxJS. What is it? And I remember sitting down with him and he looks at me and he's like, let's start a vanilla JavaScript first. But without a framework, right? It's like I wouldn't have been able to, my uptick would have been slower in a sense, right? So getting productive quickly was really satisfying.
Let's say you're going to use nothing, like as Wes said, it's like jQuery versus vanilla, right? We're not in a world where we're templating a bunch of HTML. If that's the case, then fine, use a framework. But you're about to sit down and write some vanilla JS that has a find something, do something spirit to it. Like let's say it's a click to copy, right? You need JavaScript to do that. You put a little button and you want to click it, so you're going to copy the crap out of a text area or whatever. I feel like the temptation is to make a JavaScript file and then write copy button equals document.query selector, or maybe all, depending on what you're doing, and then attach it, do an add event listener to the click, and then do the thing. I remember back in the early days before it was decided that it was uncool, is to just put an on-click handler right in HTML, and then that was crucified. But then, of course, in JSX, it's the only way to do it. Yeah, we on-click everything. But why not? Is on-click back? Can we? Screw query selector. Why even bother with query selector? Just put the click handler right on the frickin' HTML.
Or on click in the HTML. But see, that was the thing, is like it's funny how these things become cyclical or, faddish or whatever else, because there's so many different ways to solve problems on the web. And
the concern was that there's two pieces of code in totally different files that are tied at the hip, and they're easier to break because.
Right. But you were around in the web standards movement, right? Where it's like CSS is its own thing and HTML is its own thing and JavaScript is its own thing. And let's stop polluting these files with all this crazy stuff. And it's hard to kind of parse as a human. And we fought and we fought and we got that. And then React came along and was like, hold on a second. Maybe we can put a couple of those together. It's not terrible because we're winning some things. And then now we mush all the things together. But then I would just wonder if we're starting to kind of see another side of that, other than Ember, of course, Robbie, because it's going to be separate all the time. You have server render becoming so good now, and transition APIs and all these things kind of making some of the niceties that we like and we've gotten used to have us look at, what we were doing in PHP. I think that's what they talk about on Twitter, is what we were doing with PHP and other things. Actually, it's not so bad anymore. And let's server render everything. And we'll still use the languages we're using now, but servers are fast and distributed. And I don't know where I was going with this. I think we're supposed to learn Rust at the end of this podcast, though. That's where we go and do.
It's funny. I have a team and they help do JavaScript things. And, sometimes I'm like, but I have to stop myself because it's like, but 5 years ago, this person was mad at this person and you did this. But did you know that this is this and there's drama here. It's like, for us, we have all this baggage of this was cool before. Now it's not cool. And now this is cool. And, but it's beginners, do they care? Should they care? Does it matter?
They don't have all that. They don't have all the baggage, right? And a lot of great tools. So good for them now. But sometimes, do you ever feel get off my lawn and do it this way?
If there's a little roller coaster and it's that was cool, and then it got uncool, and there's stuff getting. That's kind of that was your point, right, Chuck? Is the things kind of come in and out of fashion and development. Are there things that aren't like that? Are there things now that are just better? Surely there must be tons of it, right?
I was going to say, the fact that I would assemble websites in tables with images sliced up from Photoshop. I would argue that semantic HTML and
HTML's better.
It's better, right? It's gotten we're never cycling back to that. I don't think that's ever happening again for presentation purposes, right? So
that's been a hot minute though. I don't think I ever even. I'm as old school as I feel. I never wrote tables for layout.
Microsoft. Now, they're bringing us some nice things, some shiny things these days, but they are the purveyors of everything bad on the internet and computers for quite some time. I'm going to go ahead and
they brought a lot of good stuff, too.
Yeah, everything
Internet
bad.
Explorer
Yeah,
was the first to have CSS.
They did the
VS
TypeScript
Code.
thing. Well, I mean, collectively, how do we feel about TypeScript?
Love it.
I love it.
Yep. Does anyone not like it?
See, my issue was that I
got
learned
something to
in
sell ya.
TypeScript. So I'm like, what do you mean? No type? I don't know what's happening here. I was taught that you never use it any. So anytime anybody says use it any, which I think is now like, okay, or it's like,
No, it's not.
okay these days. No, it's not okay to use it any.
That's not okay. No.
Don't just put an any on it.
Very rarely, yeah.
I mean, I was taught to never use an any, so but sometimes I'm like, well, maybe
usually
people are
there's a
using it.
little-
Maybe it's okay now. I don't know.
Unknown's a little more favorable, even though it's like you're saying like I have no idea at this point, and hopefully I clean that up later on. And any is
unknown.
like I don't know, don't care.
I saw this cute meme last night of the practical dev. He was posting some things on Instagram, and it was TypeScript, and basically it was like a picture of like a man standing next to a house with a dog, and everything was labeled like house, dog, man, shirt, pants. It's like, yeah, that's what TypeScript looks like.
I will take any house, any pants, any man, Tracy? I don't know. Anyway.
On the topic of the HTML getting better, I've been using the Popover API today. And man, that stuff rules. Popover and anchor, where you have like an anchor to anchor position something.
It's only HTML, right? Or is there a CSS component to it?
Oh, it's just HTML. But I'm having to, so there's a polyfill and it does not like play super nice. So you do have to do a little bit of CSS work to get it to play nice everywhere, especially with this like top layer thing. So the top layer is like a new Z-index thing. It just kind of sits on top of everything for pop-ups and stuff. And it's been pretty sick. But like moments before coming on to this podcast, I've been debugging because I couldn't get it to work in Safari. And sure enough, Safari preferences, disable JavaScript was checked or whatever. This is like the worst.
Oops.
Ugh.
But that's weird though, because it's an HTML thing. But
It's
JavaScript
just
still
because of
turns
the
it off.
polyfill.
Your
Yeah.
polyfill for it or whatever.
Yeah, it's in the technology preview, but I'm running it in the straight up version of Safari.
I've heard of that though. Haven't you seen? There's I wish I could think of it right off the top of my head, but there's some technologies where if you turn off JavaScript, I know what it is. It's image lazy loading. You turn off JavaScript,
because it needs
lazy
JavaScript
loading
to-
images, which is exclusively a Java HTML concern, stops working. Does it do edge detection? Like if you pop over something and it's really close to the top of the browser window, does it open downwards instead, or does it not? That?
That's a good question. There is like some I think you'd probably have to use JavaScript for that. But the anchor positioning API is really what I think you would use that for. And that's actually like a really wild API. There's like an anchor function, and you're passing it again like a unique identifier, and then giving it like a top right position or whatever. So you're trying to anchor it to something like a tooltip, right? You're anchoring it to the word. But it is a wild API. I just started diving into I couldn't get the polyfill for that working on every browser, but so I'm just using straight up JavaScript and CSS to mess with it. But yeah, man, HTML rules.
Yeah, say basic HTML, and then I watched Chris's talk at Render, and he was talking about a lot of really interesting CSS stuff. Because I picked up, like Una talked a whole bunch about the Popover API, and was like, that is super cool. Into that, Chris, you were talking about, I don't know, maybe it takes very little to impress me, I don't know, but the masonry layout for grid, I was like, and I know it's just a Firefox thing right now, because I was like rushed right over. I was like, I could do this right away. Shit, not totally yet, but that thing is awesome. Like some of the layout.
I caught some flack for that only because it's just flagged in Firefox. I thought it was not flagged, but anyway. But I was saved by Jen Simmons because her WWDC talk, which you should watch if you haven't seen it, covers a lot of also really great CSS stuff, opened with that. And I was like, oh, thank God. So now I don't look like an idiot talking about something that may never be real, It's like, dude, they put that on stage at WWDC, so I think I'm cool,
Yeah, I think it's going to go somewhere. I think it's got legs. And people want it. I liked a lot of the other aspects around thinking about your content internationally from your talk. But then again, you brought out the sexy with that for me in the end, like later on. I was like, oh yeah, but this masonry thing, Pinterest, I don't know. I like it.
My hot take is that Firefox has been getting a lot less of the new features that I want quickly enough. Like every time I want to use something, it's Firefox.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I can't believe they ship anything at all. I was at one point, I feel like they fired everybody under the sun.
They
Everyone's
fired
gone
like
now.
everybody.
I've never felt like the Firefox team has been like as visible, I feel like, as we can only talk about Microsoft and Google, I suppose, since Apple's also
they were
there,
like
but
king
not.
when Grid and Flexbox came out. Like it was all Firefox for everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The dev,
They were-
the dev tools are still way better.
Dev
So what
tools,
happened?
They're running out of money. So the people don't know this, but the way that Mozilla makes money is from Google ads. It's like 95% of their budget is people use Firefox, they search for stuff on Google, and you click an ad on Google, they get a good chunk of that money. And that's going away. People stop using Google as much. They're going to AI and
Because Google's
that
like,
money-
I know how to kill Firefox. I'm just gonna kill
I
this
don't-
program.
I don't even think
Yeah, I
like
don't
no,
think it's
sorry,
that,
it's not
yeah.
going away, but like I
Just-
think the income from that
Is-
is becoming
there's a
less
hit.
and less. And
Yeah.
I imagine as regular people start using ChatGPT to search stuff instead of Google, they're like Mozilla has to find another way to make money.
I would say I'm about 60-40, right? Like tech things and I don't know, professional things, definitely ChatGPT. Normal stuff like, oh, IMDb, who's in this movie? I'm still going to Google for like regular
But
people
ChatGPT
stuff.
is so funny because now it'll be like, I'll be like, who is this person? And it's like, well, if this person is important now, I don't know because my info only goes back to like September 2021, right? So it's like, it's being smarter about its responses because it's getting so much crap about you're supposed to know, but you don't know, I guess. GPT is supposed to know, but doesn't know.
Right. They don't understand the training model depends on.
So
like,
when you say
what has been fed
ChatGPT,
into
though,
it.
do you literally go to OpenAI? You just go to the straight up go to chat.openai.com
I have a
and just
I
chat
do.
your
that
crap in
OpenAI
there.
open all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like even
use
yesterday,
it via
yeah.
Raycast. So Raycast has like a chat extension, and it doesn't have any of the like plugins or anything like that, but it's just faster for me just to hit the keyboard shortcut, immediately open it in, and just type.
Yeah.
Like
So you gotta put your API
Tailwind,
key
let's
in
talk
or
about
whatever?
that. If you can put a hotkey in and type AI, or you can assign one. And I was just like typing like Tailwind padding, Tailwind font sizes. The most frustrating thing is waiting for it to type out the actual values in front of you rather than just show it immediately. But I thought that was fake, but it turns out they're actually streaming the result.
It's just funny because like I just typed in, is Tailwind popular? And it says, yes, as of my knowledge cutoff in September 2021, Tailwind CSS is a popular utility for a CSS framework.
So it'll always be
I had
popular.
to tell it to just shut up about your knowledge date cutoff. I know your knowledge date cutoff. It's always I get it. Stop telling me every time. Just
But
give me
it's
that thing.
hard because it's like, can you do that? Can you shut that off?
You can tell it anything you want. Yeah. Say please. I've told it like please. I don't need your fluff. Just give me the code. Give me a short description if I need that. Like, I mean, I tell it nicely. I try to be nice to it.
Just say please and thank you.
It has a it's gonna remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I got my head in the guillotine, yeah, and I said please and thank you, so you spare me, please. I would probably take up like motion graphics or video or something. I worked as a video editor professionally before getting into like my first dev job. That was kind of my career path before I got my first dev job. I was an editor, but I was trying to break into motion graphics. So I did a lot of 3D work, motion graphics, 3D stuff, and I was like firmly on the After Effects career path. I really enjoy that stuff, so that's probably what I would do.
I don't know. I guess if money didn't matter, I would try to make my child a billionaire in the next 3 years. But every time his modeling opportunities come up, I'm like, I have to work. I can't take 3 days off just for your modeling career. Granted, he'll get paid, but it's so hard.
Man, what would I would probably be that guy that is always into weird entrepreneurial pursuits. I would have like a dumpster rental company or a screen printing company or something bizarre like that, because like
Renting tables.
as much as I am a web developer, I'm figure out how to make money at stuff. That was always me as a kid trying to figure out how to make a buck. So I would probably have gotten into something really weird, and probably something that's not as glamorous as web dev and making brooms or something.
Hey, so there you go. We kind of had to end the conversation on a discussion around, hey, if you weren't doing this as your career, what would you do in life? And I found it very interesting that Wes's desire to be in logistics somehow to make money with more like practical things that are a business, but people don't think about all the time.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would say they just want to be out of like anything where you're gonna have to sit at a computer. Like if I can escape from that, how can I build stuff or do a thing that's in the real world?
That is true. No one says, oh, if I wasn't a software engineer, I would be in hardware or something like that, right? Nobody
I would
says
write
like
Word
this, like,
docs all day.
yeah,
that's what I would
right.
do.
I would be in spreadsheets for sure. I would be doing presentations. I would really work on my PowerPoints.
Oh yeah.
I feel like people do tend to lean into like more physical pursuits.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would do. Like my eyes don't work and everything is broken because I'm at a computer all day, and so if I could get away from that, I totally would.
You think that you would be physically fit enough for manual labor?
Not the kind where you've got to like dig a hole all day, but like fixing up a car or something. Sure.
That's true. Mechanics, auto mechanics or some sort of mechanics. I would be into that, I think. I do like the hardware of things in a way, like fixing and building stuff. So yeah, I could see that. By the way, dear listener, you may have heard, because there's only one of you, you may have heard a pouring sound, and while we try and recoup the rest of this episode, whiskey is a necessary part of what we do here. So we just circle back to the Dalmore 12. You may have heard, actually, yeah, by the time this came out, that will be out. I believe it was just one or two episodes ago.
I don't think it will, actually.
All right. Well, then look forward to the Dalmore
knows?
12. Yeah, and other people handle schedules and math and other things. We wrote a script, and it arbitrarily schedules all of the episodes in whatever order, too. The Dalmore 12, it's a Scotch. Most of you know we're not big Scotch fans, but but this one has a very different flavor profile to it.
Yeah.
I don't remember a ton about what we gave it. Found it decent enough to have it again because it's an open bottle sitting here, and yeah,
it's not terrible. It's a little bit off-putting right this second because I brushed my teeth not long ago. So it's
that seems like ill-advised as before you record a podcast that we drink whiskey.
Yeah, but my day got away from me. So I was like doing stuff for our loan for our house all day and trying to work still, and like bugs were coming up at work, and I was just like nonstop everything. I was like, all right, quick shower before the podcast, brush my teeth, and then I was like showed up, and then our guest's internet connection didn't work, so we are here doing this instead.
Yeah, well, life happens, and we're willing to pivot and go through it. Speaking of life, like what? Okay, so again, timing-wise, when this is released, hopefully this is a well over trend by that time, but like what the hell is going on to at least my particular Twitter feed, which is full of people drinking milk or milk alternatives. I do have a bone to pick there a little bit, but what is going on? Just one day, it just started happening, and more people. And now it's gone even further. It's like, I'm here touching grass, drinking milk, being part of the world and earth and energy.
Did you see Adam Elmore ask about it? Where he was like, okay, I totally know what's going on with the milk thing, but if I were to explain it to someone else, could you tell me what I might say? Or whatever. and they were like,
Dax is like, wait, what?
They were like,
DM me.
So, yeah, someone responded that it was like, I forget the two people it was, but it was like one person just happened to like drink milk out of the jug or something, like not part of the meme or the whatever's going on yet. And then someone else was like, wait, you drink that right out of the jug? And then like one upped them with like a bigger jug or like something. And then everyone just started doing it because they were like, this is dumb.
And then people were like, you drink milk? Milk is bad. What about this stuff? And
what about soy milk or wine or...
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, the wine. Yeah. I think that was a Ken Wheeler thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Ken Wheeler was also like, I can just get a titty out and put it in my mouth and like, like one up all you guys. I guess he has like a newborn maybe, so there's like actually still milk there or something. I don't know what he was getting at. But
okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was going to be a male or female one, but I was waiting with bated breath to see if he would do it because it feels like he probably would. Yeah. And I don't even know him. It's just, what the persona that he allows us to know. Although I've listened to a couple of his talks before from way back when he worked at Formidable. So I knew how to pronounce Urkel. And it is Urkel. Like the... Did I do that? I know that impression was great.
Yeah.
Can't
Flawless.
wait for Julia White to come on our show.
Yeah.
And do
I
it
don't
for
think
us.
he's coming on.
I know. I don't know what he's up to these days, but I remember the last time seeing him, he was like jacked. And like looking like Will Smith and all jacked and stuff. And I was like, well, he probably, people don't make fun of him to his face at least anymore.
Yeah, no, like I feel like he has a little bit of a nerdy face still or something, so it like doesn't go with the like jacked appearance. But yeah, he's like fit and like I don't know, maybe he's got plenty of money. I don't know if he's acting anymore or what he's doing.
I think it was like a charity thing or something I saw him at some years ago, and I don't keep up.
Yeah,
turns out, yeah,
not like you do with the Kardashians.
yeah. Oh, totally. Although, what was that? Another funny Twitter thing. So apparently Kanye posted, "Hey Napoli, I know how it feels. I lost my Kim too," because like Napoli's star center back, Napoli Football Club, star center back was signed by Bayern Munich, and his name is Asian. I don't know if it's Korean, so I won't say. Kim whatever is his name. And so he's like, "Yo, Napoli, I know how it feels. I lost my Kim too." I was like, oh my gosh, he's just...
That's a pretty tame thing for him. Not like
no
anti-Semitic stuff or like... Yeah.
Yeah, no nothing. No weird shoes.
Yeah, well, no one will make his weird shoes anymore because everyone's distanced from themselves from them.
You get knockoffs now or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's okay to go and get, because I thought they were so ugly before. I don't even want the knockoff. So they're like weird moon shoes. If I want to get moon shoes, I still want the Nikes that self-lace that Back to the Future 2 promised me decades ago.
Well, you know they made those,
Where
right?
is this? They made them, but they don't self-lace. I need the Nikes that self-lace. It wasn't the look, it's the function. You just push the button and then...
No, they made the function. Did you see these?
I didn't see these because I saw
it was
when
a
they
limited
released,
run. And it was like 100 only, and you had to apply to get them as like a contest. And you can buy them now for like $45,000 because like there's only 100 of them. So if you get one, like unless you are just the biggest fan ever, you're probably selling that and making a big profit.
See, this is why I want to get quote unquote fuck you rich, because I want to take stuff like that, collectibles like that, and maybe this seems pretty wasteful or whatever else, and I will give plenty to charity and do good things too, but I also want to waste it in a way on things like that, like get those shoes and then just wear them. I want to get rare cars and drive them, like just use the things that have somehow become weird trophies, buy the expensive whiskey and open it and drink it with friends and family. Like I want to do those things. I want to use these things. I want to drive that car and get paint scratches and rock chips and like, have it worn and how it did the thing it was supposed to do. Yeah. Like applying these things with a purpose. And somehow there's like such a culture of collecting. It's like legitimizing hoarders in a way or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what has made it become that way. Like I think I forget what show it was or something. We were just like scrolling through Netflix and some guy has like every Apple product they've ever made or something. And it's like, why? It's if you had one and it's like it's cool to boot it up sometimes and like see what it used to be like and whatever, that's fun, but like every single one, what are you doing with those? Like
I don't know, like they're not fitting their original function, and if they're just stored as a collectible, again, it's not really doing much. I could see Apple having a warehouse an archive.
I
think Nike has that,
something.
Right? Doesn't Nike have that for a bunch of their shoes and all that? Again, this makes sense. You're the manufacturer, you're the brainchild, these are the brainchild of your company, so it's cool to like look back at where we were and where we've been. But yeah, as an individual, I don't know what the hell I would do with all those things, like being the steward of Apple products for your whole life. Maybe if your last name is Jobs, you should do that.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah,
so,
I don't really collect stuff except for all the whiskey that I don't drink from this podcast. So
yeah, well, you tried to NFT your way out of that and that didn't work either. You still got rug pulled. I mean, you gotta drink it and use it for cocktails so that more than you will drink it and then share. I mean, I I easily, every time we get invited over for like a barbecue or dinner or whatever else, I am always bringing whiskey with me, and I am always leaving it there. And they're like, no, take this. This is a nice one. Like, no, trust me. I'm good. I got plenty.
Maybe you haven't listened to our podcast. Check it out at whiskeyWebandWhatnot.fm.
Right, exactly. And listen to at least one whole episode so that you can rate us 5 stars and then just never come back again. I don't know.
Yeah. We never got any additional ratings from Render, which tells me that it definitely doesn't count it unless you listen to the whole thing. So
right.
If any of those people who rated us are listening, listen to a whole episode and rate us again, please, so that it works.
Right. Yeah, you can't just go right and rate it and then never come back again or not finish one. So,
yeah.
I mean, good for them making it legitimate. You know, the rate, you can't have bots come in and like mass rate it or something weird.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that it's legitimized in that way. I don't want to skip over this important question that I have, though, which is there's the milk thing and various milks, and then there are these quote-unquote milks, like oat milk, almond milk, whatever, I don't know, coconut milk, which maybe is somewhat viably closer to actual milk, but like any kind of nut milk isn't a milk, right? You know? Like what makes it milk?
I feel like it's a broad term, and I feel like the term at its core just means like extracting a liquid from a thing. Arguably the almond ones and stuff that like don't have that much liquid, and like where does it all come from? There's a bunch of other crap in there, whatever.
Yeah. I've made my own almond milk once, by the way. It is a messy and not worth it process. I mean, you basically like crush up a bunch of almonds, and then they're in this like small sieve bag thing, and you soak it for a while. So it's like nut soaked. It's almost like making chocolate milk, right? But it takes longer because you don't have this chocolate syrup.
It has nothing to do with getting it out of it then. You're just putting your own water in and like collecting the flavor. So then, that is not milked. Coconut, as you said, does have real liquid. So that is milk.
That's more milky. I find it all just to be a dairy substitute. And that's fine. If you're like, I don't want dairy in my coffee, I want this, a dairy substitute. Okay. But, you know, you don't get to have the category milk, in my view. It's not milk. There's nothing milk about it. And that's okay if you don't. It's sort of like fake meats. They're not meat. They're just like other processed thing that's supposed to kind of fake it.
Yeah.
And if you choose to have that rather than the thing, that's okay. I want, you know, a chicken substitute. It's kind of like imitation crab meat, right? Although that is other meat still. But like in a way, it's like, did you want crab? Cool. Well, I got this stuff made out of fish. Looks
kind
like
of like crab. Yeah.
That's crab-like. And we add a gelatin in there so it gets a sponginess to it. Enjoy that. It's just like fancy crab.
I did have a really good crab cake a couple of days ago. It was crab cake day at a restaurant in Maryland, and it was like a third off the normal price. And I was like, cool, I'll try it. And it was very good.
Yeah, I guess it's not soft shell crab season, but I mean, it's always kind of crab season in Maryland. Yeah, that's
even when it's not in season, Maryland finds it.
They're like, we are the crab people, whether we made it or not. I feel like they have blue crab and a couple other ones like year round. So you can always get a decent crab cake there. And if you get it at a better price, like why not? Why would it be on sale? I don't know.
I think it's supposed to be like a promotion to get people in the door, right? So you buy things that have higher margins while you're in there eating the crab cake is the theory.
Yeah, the restaurant business seems difficult. It's probably not for me. There's a lot of pressure behind that.
But the selling whiskey business seems easy because you go, all right, this bottle costs $50. So if you're going to buy it at my bar, it's going to be $400. It seems like an easy way to make money.
Yeah, margins on alcohol are ridiculous. It's like 300% on average. It's like, oh, you like this bottle of wine? Well, it costs you $20 at Trader Joe's. You go to the restaurants, easily $60, $70 for the bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Just crazy. And people are like, yes, I'll have that same thing.
Well, you're not going to say, hey, I'm going to not have wine because you're charging me more, unless you're like really cost conscious at the time or something. But like I wouldn't buy like a several $100 bottle at a restaurant, but if it is double the price, 3 times the price, like still probably okay.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is I think the margins on more expensive bottles are lower, right? Because they need a kind of a ceiling. So it's like $100 or more bottle out. They at max, I think, double it. and that's it.
Yeah, because it would get ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
you drop off a cliff of like the people that would pay $100-ish to people that would pay over 200 are not going to happen. So
that's crazy. It actually reminds me on an episode of Smartless that I was listening to recently. I never talk about this podcast, but Bill Maher was on, and they were for whatever reason discussing clubs in LA and bottle service, and none of them go do that at this point. But apparently, it's like a $5,000 endeavor to do bottle service. So you get like mediocre vodka and some mixers at a premier table, and it's like $5,000.
Yeah, well, the table is part of it, because usually it's probably at a club that like doesn't have seating. You're like standing room only unless you buy the VIP lounge or whatever. So then, you're paying for that. But then, each bottle is like so much.
Yeah, and then you get premium seating, and you get the the attention. You're like, look, I could afford this right here. The people that can afford that are insane. Well, they just value different things, I guess. And they have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. If you're literally, I don't know how much Jeff Bezos makes a day, but I imagine that it's got to be something comically large, like several $100,000 a day or something, right?
Yeah.
And if that's happening, you're like, $5,000, I don't care. Like, doesn't matter at all. So those kind of people will do that.
It's not Jeff Bezos though. It's like these people's children. Right. So it's not like the hedge fund manager at BlackRock.
People that inherit the things.
It's the people that have access to that. And they're like, cool, I'm 24, just made it through college with no debt and got an immediate VP position at my uncle's thing. So it doesn't look too much, like a problem. I don't work right for my dad. I work for my uncle.
Yeah.
And but I have access to $10,000 a day.
Yeah, life goals, I guess.
Yeah, if only you could like somehow work to be born into the right family or financial circumstance, right?
Well, it depends on your outlook, right? Because if you think about the good things, you weren't born as a cow. Win.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Win, yeah.
So
wait,
like,
am I a dairy cow or am I,
no, you're a soy
burger
cow.
Am I a burger cow? Am I going to turn into a burger, or do I just got to
just live on the pasture for fun? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I guess those are different, but you know what I mean.
I want to be a cow in like a Hindu country, so that I am appreciated and precious. Yeah, that's not a terrible life comparatively.
But like, like if you're
hormones,
I feel like anyone who isn't like has anything super bad going on, like tons of poverty or tons of illness or something, should feel like I'm lucky to be a human and alive and doing okay. Like,
right.
There's a lot of people doing worse now. So
this is true. We always, woe is me, look at all that privilege and random luck, but I don't need $5,000 bottle service, so I'm okay. Yeah. I would like one awesome vintage car to drive the fuck out of. The one that like has like somebody's protected for 40 years and has like, it's like the Ferris Bueller thing, right? Where he has that Ferrari GT 250 GT California. I have that fantasy. That's probably Ferris Bueller's fault, actually, why I have that fantasy. I'm like, that is a bucket list item for me, to take the protected, precious trophy car and just fucking drive it.
Well, if you ever get filthy rich, what you should do is start a fund for middle-class folks to get some obnoxiously expensive thing, like one a year of like, you just give it to them and they get to use it. And like,
right. It's almost like Make-A-Wish, but you don't have to be dying.
Yeah.
I like that. And in spite of recent legislation, I would make it very equal opportunity.
What happened with recent legislation?
Affirmative action was abolished, basically.
Oh, was it? I totally missed that. I haven't watched any news or anything in a while. Was this recent? Oh boy,
yes. I think it was yesterday, and today's SCOTUS decision was around.
Can we fucking fire the Supreme Court?
They should be going to jail with recent evidence, but that's a whole other thing. Like they've clear bribery and payoff, and like I think one of there's like a judge given free vacation essentially. and taking on these expensive trips and whatever else. And I think like the person providing that has like a direct benefit for student loan forgiveness not occurring. And coincidentally, that justice voted to repeal that forgiveness and is also trying to reduce the powers of the president in correlation to things like that.
The Supreme Court is not supposed to have power to do anything. They like get to weigh in on things sometimes. They're not supposed to be, but we're not going to get too political. We're going down a big thing here, but yeah, not a fan.
Coup all over France. It's burning. France is burning, by the way, like all over.
What happened there?
Buildings are
we
burning.
can talk about them because it's not our government.
Yeah, it's not us. Well, it might sound a little close to home. So some police shot and killed a 17-year-old black boy, or I might be making that part. I know they shot and killed a 17-year-old boy. Doesn't matter what race he was. So I was feeling like it might be, but I could be wrong. And so that race aside, doesn't matter. Yeah, that's why I want to walk that back and say might have that wrong. But all the other parts are right. And so riots started happening, and then that started to spiral. And so there's looting and destruction and lots of fires.
Do you think Americans fly over when they hear that looting might happen and just do all of it?
Yeah. Well, and then on a racial side, so they're blaming the Islamic folks that were allowed to immigrate into France and blah, 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 blah.
For the looting?
You know, for whatever, just allowed in, and now these things are happening. And so they're saying, well, obviously it's not French. It's not the French people doing this. It's immigrants and... Yeah, ridiculousness.
See, this is why I don't watch any news. Like, I knew nothing about any of this, and I've been fine. Like,
yeah, but you're on Twitter. Apparently, you're isolated on Twitter somehow.
But Twitter, all I see is people drinking milk and like doing stupid stuff.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Oh, nobody talks about real stuff on Twitter except for the like occasional "fuck you, Elon" or something.
Right, but it is like all tech bros drinking milk. So, right.
Well, I only follow tech bros. Like, it's very curated.
Yeah, there you go. And nailed it. You can isolate yourself and the news and information that you get in life. Don't turn on TVs. You tweak Twitter to give you the content that you want. And so Elon's wrong. It's not like the number one news platform that's real in the world, because if that was the case, you would get relevant news regardless, but you tell it, no, I don't want those things. That's all fluff to me. Just let's keep it cheeky and funny.
Yeah.
Which is fine too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just
There's too much bad stuff going on to like
it really
want to see all of that. So
yeah, it's tough. I basically, from a news perspective, kind of like scroll Apple News for a little while, scroll Twitter, and that's kind of it. I feel like I'm getting more than enough of bad shit that I don't know where I can escape to. Not Mars yet, I guess.
Yeah, we need to get on that. Maybe like mine some minerals in space or do something other than just like go to the moon decades ago and then be like, we're done.
Yeah, we're done with that. Well, we send non-manned things all over the place. We have the Mars.
Well, yeah.
rover.
But if you sent a bunch of manned people to somewhere and said, you have to live here now, we'd probably be doing a lot better. Like they would figure it out.
Matt Damon barely survived. What do you want?
That's true. Yeah. That's true. He figured it out, though. Got his crops going and all that.
It's a fairly relevant point to end things on. I think we've gotten as whatnotty as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. This one was not the best that we've ever had, but hopefully you enjoyed the first part with all of the people that are more interesting than us saying more interesting things than we say and the random bullshit that we just spouted. So we will have an actual episode with more guests and things that you're used to for the next ones. At some point, I really promise we will do videos. We've been kind of hit or miss with them because shit keeps happening.
Technology is hard, turns out.
Yeah, if there's any whiskeys you want us to try, any topics you want us to cover, let us know. You can reach us on Twitter, LinkedIn. We need to make a little thingy on our website where you could just like send us text so that we can do like that because
kind of like a pseudo form.
Yeah, like people don't all have Twitter or whatever, so I get that, but like we want to hear from you and whatever platform you're on. Hit us up and yeah, we'll do whatever you say next time.